You're watching A Little Bit at a Time, and today I have a special guest. It's Pascal, who is a three-time Grammy nominee. He also is a cryptocurrency investor, a trader, a programmer, a stock investor, a private equity investor, and we're going to jump into all that today. But before we get started, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like as well if you like this video. And you can also check the description if you're looking for a Spotify link. So let's jump right into it.
So we are pretty much hiding at home with air purifiers, like full blown.
Yeah. Wait, was that because of the baby reveal, or was that something totally different?
That's the one called the Bobcat fire. So that's in the Pasadena, and it's been the last 2 days were pretty extreme. So
okay, yeah, wow. And then you got to mix in COVID too, so it just makes everything
so it's like
completely weird. Yeah, things started opening up here. I live in Rochester, New York, so it's like 5 hours from the city.
Okay.
And yeah, so everything started opening up again, and now it's all just shutting down because everyone's getting it now. So it's getting kind of wild. I think even like socially, it's kind of weird because like if you're running on the street, everyone's scared now to even get near you. So it's like such a weird thing now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, cool. So I appreciate you, answering me really quick and, jumping on this podcast. I think this will be a good one. You have a lot of experience. I tried not to look too much into like, your bio and stuff, because I think if I ask good questions, a lot of it's going to come out. And if I find, easy things to talk about, somebody could just easily look you up and find it. So
absolutely.
I think, this would be better. Yeah, so I guess the first thing, we'll just jump, right into it.
Cool.
I think the first thing I'm kind of wondering is, how do you manage, your time? Because it seems like, you're living three people's lives, being, in the music industry, being an investor, being in crypto, making code. In and of itself, this is like, somebody could spend 10 years on each, thing. And young people, and me included, it's very hard to manage time. I guess, like what are your tips, or, how do you find time to do everything that you're doing?
Yeah, it's very true. We know that it's very easy to be distracted nowadays, and a lot of people struggle with distraction. I've never really had this problem because basically I focus on certain things in a very intense way for a certain amount of time. So for example, the first part of my life, I gave my life to music. So that means at that time, I was practicing my piano 10 hours a day. I did that for a month, maybe a few years. I studied music production, arrangement. That's all I was doing. That's all. But I did that for years. So basically, you can say I did my 10,000 hours and probably much more than that for music. Mm-hmm. And after actually spending 10, 15 years in music, I needed some new challenges, so that's when I found a new passion for finance, just hanging on YouTube. And I randomly found some traders, and I looked into what they were doing, and that really spoke to me. And I decided to go for it, but once again, in a very serious way. So you're right. At that time, for 6-7 years, I had two lives at once. So my day was looking like the following. Waking up at 6 a.m., the market opens at 6:30, 6:30 to 1 p.m. LA time. I was pretty much trading the markets. And at 2 p.m., I had music clients coming to my place, and we were working together till 7 p.m. And I was doing that. I did that for a while till I got burnt out big time. Mm-hmm. But that allowed me to get really know the trading world. I'm very happy I did it, because then it helped me for tons of things. And I started coding because of the trading stuff, because I trained with some of the most serious people in New York for what is called like day trading, short-term trading. It's a company called SMB Capital. They are very well known as really one of the elite company to learn trading. They train their people like high-level athletes. So they basically they train their traders to also become coders, or at least to work with coders, because they encourage their traders to become more bionic, not only to take human decisions, but to once you have identified your edge, put that into a code so that it can free your time and be more efficient in the market and all that stuff. So that's how I started to code. So you're right. At this point, I was doing a little bit less music. I was doing maybe more trading finance and also coding. And after this period, I really focused for a few years mostly on coding. So it's pretty much reducing the time for music, reducing the time maybe for trading, investing, and spending more time on focusing on that for a few years. And then I started to do a few tools, softwares for myself, and also for other companies. I just delivered a new web platform software for Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, a company I'm involved with. So it's actually more focusing for a period of time to really become an expert on the subject. And then, well, you can navigate. If you do that, you can navigate different words, and you just allocate the percentage of time depending on, like what you want to do now. And that's that. But probably the biggest mistake that people do, and I see that all the time, is that constantly in their life, there's no time that they really focus on one thing for a few years to actually become a true expert of the thing. That's the difference. Then that's what I did basically.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think a lot of people have, kind of that similar approach. I was just watching a Joe Rogan podcast with Travis Barkley. And yeah, I mean, he basically said the same thing that, you have to like grind at your, passion. You have to give it 100%, because if you have a plan B or something like that, you're not really giving it your all. And, that's kind of how people, can fall through the cracks. And I see social media kind of being, weighing some people down, I think. If they're, on social media or, just playing video games too much. I think sometimes people kind of overestimate their free time and think, well, I don't have enough time to do it. But then if you really cut things down, they're spending, 2 hours on Twitter, or they're, playing Call of Duty for 4 hours. And then, suddenly 24 hours seems a lot shorter. In that
for sure, what people don't realize, and maybe more and more nowadays, because it's very easy to get anything, to find anything, or like to be distracted by anything. You get access to anything through your computer. And if you really want to become an expert on something, well, you actually have to study.
Right. And gratification is a killer, because everyone wants like that quick, easy fix. And that when you get hooked on that, it can be a spiraling effect, I think.
Absolutely. And I talk about it all the time. So you're completely right. Yeah.
When you got into programming, was Python the first thing you did, or what?
No, I started with JavaScript.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's a great way to start, because you can build so many things so quickly, interact with the web in a very, very easy way, build interactive experience. You can make them live on the website very easily. So I think it's a great way. And I started by researching on YouTube. And there's this guy, Daniel Schiffman, probably the best teacher coder on YouTube. He's funny. He's a great teacher. It's easy to learn from him. So I started by following a lot of his work, and some of the interactive artificial intelligence demonstration on my website are actually built on top of some of the lessons that he gave on YouTube. He's a great guy. I mean, anybody who wants to learn like JavaScript or stuff like that, he's a great person to at least follow and learn from.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely, like coding, I think, is something that everyone's going to have to know in the future, and you really have to be, adaptive. And I think the way that the economy is facing, that everyone should be, jumping in on it. I personally, when I first started, I went with Python for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I went on Khan Academy and just kind of,
Yes.
learned through that way. And then when I got into JavaScript, it was more for like indie video games. And there was a YouTube series called Tornado Twins, I think, on YouTube, and that's kind of where I started for it.
Great.
But yeah, I think it's amazing because you can do a lot, especially with trading. When you can find coding to connect to something that you actually love, I think that's what really sparks it for a lot of people.
Yes.
So that's really awesome that you found kind of like coding and trading to kind of intermingle.
Actually, I have to say, if I really go back, when I really started coding, I was not easy language. It was not JavaScript. It was easy language, which is a specific language used on trading platforms like TradeStation, multi-charts. So I actually really started by that. And the crazy story is this programming language got invented, if you will, by two Cuban musicians. And it's crazy because Cuban music has been a huge part of my life. And I was like, that's it, full circle.
It's so wild how things just kind of fall into place and how everything is just connected. It's
crazy.
The most insane thing.
So yeah, I actually completely forgot about that, but this is how I started the coding, and then it expanded when I discovered Daniel Schiffman, and I spent most of my time with JavaScript stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. What kind of things were you trading? Was it mostly like securities, commodities, crypto?
Mostly stocks, because I started, which year did I start? I started 6 or 7 years ago. So mostly stocks. I never really got involved with options or things like that. I could have, but once again, when you train with very serious people, once again, they encourage you to focus on maybe one field, and not everything at once, and figure out what you're comfortable with yourself.
Right.
And that's really, 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 really the key. And that's when I really learned what having an edge means and how important it is. And actually, this idea needs to be implemented for any strategy, for any career, whatever you do. I actually wrote a blog post about that on my website. What's your edge? Like, what's your unfair advantage? What are you better at than most people or anybody else? So yes.
Yeah, stocks is one of the the interesting things, because everyone hypothetically should have access to the same information, but it's how you look at the information that changes whether someone's buying and selling. And of course, when you buy, someone is selling. So I think that's definitely really interesting. What kind of tactic are you using to find your edge? Is it more like technical analysis? Or are you looking more towards the economic, like what are you really looking for?
So when you learn from these guys, once again, they teach you how to build your playbook. And basically the playbook is a set of strategies, because you cannot have one strategy, because we know that any working strategy will not work anymore at some point, or maybe for a certain amount of time. So you constantly have to have a bunch of strategies that can complement each other in the ideal scenario. So one of the things that always worked really well for me, and it's actually one of the really big strategies that a lot of short-term traders focus on, is actually mean reversion. So basically, looking for any crazy moves that need to correct to come back to something that is more normal. So that's why there is a lot of short sellers in the short-term trading world. I remember very well the SMB Capital firm saying that a large part of their trading floor people were mostly making money on the short side, like most of the time. So this is really one of the strategies that I really focused on, that worked really well. And I started to code little things that was actually helping me to just get the execution faster, better, without having to look too much into it. Expected moves, basically, and especially one of the strategies that I always really, really liked is gap exhaustions. So, basically if you have a big move to the upside, for example, and then you really start to get parabolic and the next day it gaps again, that's very often a very nice shorting opportunity, at least for the day. But you can have very nice moves during one day, within one day, with that kind of strategy, actually. And by the way, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice.
Of course.
You do whatever you want. That's it.
Yes, of course.
Very important to say.
You always have to do that, especially in crypto.
Yes.
That's like every tweet. I feel like I have to say that every single time.
Yes.
Because And so when you're trading, I'm guessing you're trading more like short-term windows, like, maybe you said you're like a day trading, so maybe like one day, or are you looking farther in the future?
So I do two things. Short-term trading has definitely been one of my specialties. And the other thing I do is actually private equity investing. So that's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, definitely. That's unicorn investing.
So yes, so basically, I look for companies that have a working product. I don't invest super early, but I'm looking for a company that has like a working product that can potentially change the world, or actually is already started to change the world. And I buy them when they're still private, and I forget about it, till the IPO, or like, depends if it's something that has really an insane potential. I would just hold it for a very, very long amount of time, definitely years, and I mean, that kind of stuff is like over years anyway. So I'm ready to be incredibly patient for that kind of stuff. No problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're investing in something that hasn't even gone to an IPO or anything, then you definitely have to hold on. And I think one of the things that you had invested in was SpaceX, right?
Absolutely,
SpaceX.
Definitely.
And then you are coding for a company,
Hyperloop.
Yes, that Elon Musk, I think, had like the vision for it. It was like
yes,
it's a transportation company, essentially, right?
Yes. So basically, when people ask me what I do, is that pretty much, I invest in that kind of growth companies, and depending on the case, depending how close I am with the team, I sometimes contribute on other levels as well. So I'm coding. So I've always been very close to the Hyperloop TT team. So I've helped on different levels, and lately I've been coding a lot. Just delivered a new software for them. Very happy about it. Actually, it's going to bring great value. So yes. So to answer your question about the Hyperloop thing, so Elon Musk made the idea popular of this new way of transportation, but he clearly said that he had zero time to do it. So, he was like, hey, people do it. Actually, the idea of that thing is actually very, very old. He didn't invent anything regarding that. So what happens is, one of our friend, Dirk Alborn, early on, pretty much built the first real Hyperloop company in 2013. So since then, we've been working, and at the beginning, I was mostly involved with music. I was making some music for the videos and that kind of stuff. And since I got more into coding, that was a great opportunity for me to contribute on that level as well, and very interesting. So I got involved much more on that level.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so with the Hyper company, that's not using maglev technology, is it? Or
so
is it something similar?
Actually, you know what? There is actually, I actually did the music for the video too. On YouTube, you can see exactly how the system works. There's like a very good animation. It definitely works with magnets, and I think it's actually, this video is on Dirk Alborn's YouTube, but you'll find it easily anyway. Another video I made the music for that you might run into is when we demonstrate the fake windows, because basically you're in a tube, so you cannot see outside. So they plan on having really high definition screens for the screens for the window, and basically you could select what kind of virtual landscape you want to see.
That is actually sick.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it actually also adapts that if you move in your seat, the window, the screen, the picture on the screen adapts to your movement, so that it really tricks you, so that you think that you're really on this weird planet that you've never seen before.
Yeah. That definitely sounds like something Elon Musk has envisioned at one point in time.
Yeah. So that's that. So the company is called Hyperloop TT. Hyperloop
and you've been working there
Transportation
since like 2015, I think, right? So you've been working.
So the company, Dirk created the company in 2013. I think I got involved maybe in 2014 or 15, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. And so how long would you say like you spend on that, like, per day? Is it something that you just kind of come in when they have
really
a project,
depends.
Or
okay. Well, once again, it comes back to time allocation.
Right.
So for me, this year, I decided to spend quite a bit of time on coding, and actually, I would say January to June, I spent 70% of my time building this application for the company. And then I was still doing a bit of music here and there, but that was not my focus for this month. So that's that. And since I'm mostly done with it, I've been going back for the past 2 weeks, back doing research for potential new investments. Actually made a few deals. And that's that. So my plan for the next few months is to bring back some time for more research, more learning, more potential deals, like whatever I find. If I find something, if I don't find anything, I definitely won't do anything. And then we'll see. I'm very, very interested in doing research to try to build some potential new interesting thing with the coding, and try to combine that with interesting ideas like crypto and music. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Let me screen share my screen, because I'm actually on your website here, because I just played this. So this is an educational video game that you had built, and I'm not gonna lie, the first time I played it, I almost beat it, and then I just couldn't pass again. I couldn't pass again after I did that. But yeah, are the lights on it supposed to like make it harder? Because I think it does kind of when you're playing around and the lights are changing, it kind of almost disappears a second, even though but that's really interesting. So yeah, I was just playing around with that for a little bit. So you say it's powered on blockchain, but is it on like the Ethereum like network, or is it just something where if someone donates or plays, it's just auto paid to you? Like
it's auto pay, definitely. It's actually a little trick, but it's an interesting trick because a lot of things could end up being monetized this way in the future.
Yeah,
it's just very, very early on. So the exact way it functions, I made this game at the end of 2017 just to practice my JavaScript. Okay, let's be clear. But then I was like, I'm gonna use some music, and I was like, I'm gonna use my music, of course.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a second, I just discovered this music streaming blockchain platform that actually has a music player that you can embed on any website. I was like, wait a second, and if I put it in my game, I hide the player, I put it on autoplay. Anytime somebody loads the website, I get paid in crypto, they hear my music, they play the game for free, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. That's that.
Yeah, when I first learned about blockchain, the first thing I thought of, well, I had seen someone that had made a blockchain that was about music, and I instantly thought like, this is ingenious. This is like better than Spotify because when someone listens to your song, they can buy it. This was like kind of back when people were buying songs, so I was like, this is amazing
Right.
because when you buy the song, it goes right to the artist and it doesn't go to
Yes.
like the intermediaries or
All the
anything. So
intermediaries.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah, definitely. So like, even if you bought it on your phone, it wouldn't go to Google Play. It would go, directly
Yes.
to the artist, which goes right to their pocket. That was also the same
Yeah.
time I was looking at like the BitPay debit card. So like if someone paid me from China, I would instantly be able to spend the money. So I was like, wow, this is like a game changer completely.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
to be clear, this is still very experimental.
Right.
When you talk about that, people are like, wait a second, where does the music, the money comes from, first of all? So let's make that clear. We can look, probably the best experience for content monetization is probably Steam It, because they get a lot of traction,
Right.
and it's kind of the same idea. Uh, and people ask where the money comes from. Well, I always explain to people that all these projects are like a virtual country. It's like a community of people that say pretty much no to the way a government works and how they deal with money, and support a new way of functioning through their computers, through a network of computer, and they decide to function a certain way. And this is how a certain crypto is being created, thanks to the miner of the network and all that kind of stuff. So that's very clear. It's just coding, and that's pretty much how Bitcoin works anyway at the beginning. So that's that. It's important to say actually where the money comes from. And a lot of these projects have been really struggling because it's an experience. We don't know how it's going to evolve, the potential. Once again, Steemit definitely has the most success, but there is like community issues, and like with the Justin Sun and like all these people. So
Yeah.
So the music coin right now are pretty much worth nothing. So when people are like, yeah, but how much money did you make with your game? I was like, wait, I definitely accumulated a lot of coins, and at some point it was worth a lot, but I don't need the money, so I don't care. I just wait. And for me, it's the kind of project that it will go to zero, or it will just explode, get adopted, and you end up making a few houses. So
Right.
more than a few
Not
houses.
bad.
So as a trader, it's part of my portfolio mindset where I do certain kind of investments, and some of the stuff is very risky. The cool part is, for that stuff, I didn't even invest. It's just money I collect because of my game. So it's free money. So if the free money you receive can become like multiple houses, yeah, why not? I'm okay to be patient for that. And if it goes to zero, it's completely fine to me. But I keep a look on all the music blockchain platforms to see maybe which is the one that will really take off, and trying to be early on and try to accumulate as much as I can, and then we'll see. That's that.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that definitely is a good point, because a lot of projects try to say that like they're going to be the next big thing, and it really is important to realize that a coin is only worth something if someone has value for it, if they have demand for it. And so I mean, a lot of these projects, I think a lot of them have the right concept in place, because they want to cut out the intermediary. There's just not as much friction, because Spotify is Spotify, right? So you're not going to get everyone immediately. But I think the technology is promising, for a lot of people, and it's just fun to use, when you're just in this industry itself. But I definitely agree that, it's not, it's not something that's just going to blow up overnight, and crypto is still extremely new.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of experiences. So it's just very interesting to keep an eye. But it's like the trader mindset. You have to be a sniper. So you have to know a lot of stuff. You have to keep an eye on all the stuff, and really get where there is a new edge. Look at Imogen Heap, the artist. She was the first one to sell her album with Ethereum. So not many people bought it, but it was a successful experience. And then the value of Ethereum exploded. So and they ended up having $150,000, and they put that back into research. It's great.
Yeah, no, definitely. How did you originally get into blockchain? Like, how did you first discover it? Was it, I'm assuming it was Bitcoin that you first came across, or?
Actually, yeah, it's friends. It's talented friends. I happen to have like a very unusually talented friend who is hedge fund manager, coder, video game designer, musician. I have never met somebody like that in my life. And so I ended up spending quite a time with him, and he educated me about it because I was really focused on what I knew, stocks. But then, since I was starting to code at the same time, that made me understand much better the impact and the potential. And I was like, holy cow!
Yeah. Bitcoin, it's like crypto in general, I think is just the weirdest thing, because once you learn about it, you can't stop thinking about it. Like,
Yeah.
I like the day that I like thought about Bitcoin and like saw it or whatever, I have not thought the word Bitcoin at all. Like I've thought about the word every single day of my life, and it's like, you know, even if it's not directly around me, I'm still thinking about it. So it's like somebody had an interview and they put it like it's almost like a brain disease that once you learn about it, you literally cannot stop thinking about it, because it's, you know, it's everywhere and you're seeing all these new avenues where it could be implemented. You know, blockchain's not good for everything, but there are some things that seem, you know, it could be, you know, fairly interesting, you know, to have.
Yeah, for sure. Well, probably for people who don't have much experience in trading and investing, I understand what you're saying, and you know, people are probably really on the edge of the price action and checking it all the time, all that stuff. But no, it's just I actually, you know, I have a friend who really wants to do short-term trading on crypto, and I keep telling him, but it's like, you're crazy. It's the most difficult,
thing ever.
the most
It's
difficult
so
thing to do. I was like, if especially when you learn your first years, focus on something like stocks, because first of all, it's not 24/7. You know that when the market opens, this is when 60%, 70% of all the volume is being made. You know that's when you can focus that time on the day on doing something, and then having the rest of the time for you. Because with Bitcoin, you don't know, like all this stuff 24/7. You have no idea what's gonna happen. So if you don't have technology to help you to alert you when your edge is triggered, I mean, you can end up spending your life on that and really struggle. So yeah.
Crypto is very bittersweet, definitely. Every time I buy it, it'll drop. Like every single time I buy into it, it drops. But it like over the years, I'm just like, whatever, 20%, whatever. Like it's you know, it's gone back up, whatever. Like,
you know, it goes back to what we were saying of like, this is the kind of stuff that is world changing. So you have to be really patient and ideally forget about it and actually just wait. You know, when there's like big panics, that's when you should take action. Once again, I'm not a financial advisor. No. It's not financial advice. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, it's scary when people say they know what they're talking about, because it's like, this stuff is still so new. How are you an expert at this? You know,
yes.
It is wild. What's your favorite aspect about blockchain? I know for me, it's like cross-border transactions. I love that we don't have to go through banks. You know,
well,
Pace, PayPal. God, they give me the most trouble. But,
I had some issues actually with PayPal. Definitely. There is a few things that are really, really big for me. Anti-corruption, anti-censorship, globally I'm speaking, right? But not specifically on one coin or one project or whatever, but the global idea. Getting rid of intermediaries, one of the biggest thing, that's for sure. Because we know, for example, in the music industry, that's why the artists don't get much. It's because the intermediaries are pretty much taking everything. It's also, for example, in music, insanely hard to track your rights. I constantly, I have songs everywhere in the world, and for some territories, it's extremely hard to make sure that your sub publisher is actually doing his job and paying you what he needs to pay to you. I noticed again very recently that was not the case, so I had to make a change. So it's really trust. So what I like with these systems is that instead of trusting people, intermediaries, you trust the code, and that's it. So I really like that.
Yeah, there was a movie on Netflix that was about this where a songwriter, like basically, I think it wasn't the United States, it was a different country. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially, he became famous in the United States, but he never even knew because the publishers had just basically taken all of his money. And
Yep.
so he didn't think he was famous at all. And then all of a sudden, he just happened to like come over to the United States, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, you're like the biggest thing here." And he was like, "What? Like, I didn't even know about this. Like, I made no money for like 30
Yeah.
years."
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I have to say, so I spent a lot of time in the music world, in the finance world, in the tech world. Unfortunately, the music circles are probably the circle that I enjoyed the least. Um, uh, that's just I don't. It's maybe also because everybody think they're like a producer or a singer just like that because technology allows it, because anybody can sing. And there is really like a big difference between what they think they're doing and reality.
Mhm.
you know?
True.
And that's also why I developed other passions. It's because in the pop world, I think the pop culture became too much close to trash culture. And when you're like really educated, it's just you just get bored. It's just like it's boring as hell, you
Mhm.
know. So that's why I'm very happy I found these other passions, because now I can navigate these different worlds and actually only work on stuff that I enjoy. So that's great.
Well, what do you think was like kind of the negative part of like the culture? Do you think it was like, too much partying or something? Like what kind of aspect of, the people do you think that was sort of
No,
negative?
I think it's really about education. And once again, I think people in the music world think they're just like a legit producer just by buying a computer and putting a software on and just doing a few things, and it's great. And a lot of singers think they're really incredible at what they do, when it's not the case. You can see it on American Idol very often.
Yeah, definitely.
It's easy to watch.
Yeah.
So, and it's a lack of education. I mean, we know that the education system is really, really, really bad,
Mhm.
just like the healthcare system and things like that. And there's actually a very famous trader in the UK, Anton Creel. I very often share this video with people because he makes it very clear that you need to seek alternative education.
Mhm.
You cannot learn the thing that will really change your life in major big schools, because by definition it goes against the system.
Right.
That's that. So once you know that, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's always like everyone that seems to be, successful in their own way, like is always learning about stuff. You're never just completely satisfied with the way
Yeah,
that, you're doing something. I mean, for some people it's great, if you're an Instagram model or whatever, and you enjoy that,
sure.
that's awesome. But I think
Yeah,
for a lot of people, you have like you're almost forced to, but if you enjoy it, then it's amazing because, in
sure.
crypto, you can't just, all right, I'm done, I'm not going to learn anymore, because you'll end up getting burned, really bad.
Yep,
But yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's more, just trying to achieve goals. And so a lot of
absolutely.
people are always, trying to, learn more about that. What was
Yeah.
the most interesting thing that you've learned about blockchain since you've been in it? Like what's kind of something that's unusual that you're like, holy cow, like I didn't even think that was, possible, or, something like that.
Well, on a more global way is I'm not into really politics myself. It's a bit, there is too many random parameters, so I don't like to talk about politics.
Right.
I like revolution induced because of technology, because of what code can do, and then laws have to adapt. And that's what I really enjoy this idea. And that field is just making so many new things possible that um, you know the regulation will have to catch up at some point. It can take a huge amount of time. My crypto video game, it's been live since 2017. It's crazy, and that allows me to collect rights instantly without going through the performances rights societies.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are a member of a performance society rights for musicians, these kind of rights are supposed to all go through them, and that's in the contract. But with this technology, I've been collecting some of these rights instantly without going through them. But it's a gray zone, completely gray zone. And actually, I can tell you that with one of the music blockchain company I was involved, we started discussing with one of the big pros. So that's the Society of Authors that collect these kind of rights.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, it's a gray zone. The law doesn't talk about this kind of cases. So that's very, very interesting. So I really like that, to be able to challenge how the world is functioning, and to bring a new solution, and then regulation obviously has to adapt to make things clear, because well, it depends the appetite for risk you have, but you can end up doing things that are in the gray zone, and regulators can come after you as well. So that's not the great idea. I mean, some people do that. I don't. Definitely not. I'm not willing to take this kind of risk. But I just like to do things that like really on the edge. Of course, completely legal. Stay on the edge, and just try to push people to think a different way, inspire people, show people that new things are possible. That's what I like about that field. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely see that as well. Regulation is a huge thing. That I think some aspects of regulation you definitely need. But when it comes to technology, a lot of it kind of lacks, definitely with the way that, things are structured, it kind of, can ruin it. I think for me, the most interesting thing about blockchain is kind of how everything has really fallen into, Satoshi's original vision. I mean, after the market crash, I mean, we're seeing now inflation is extremely high. It's higher than ever. Like that's one of the guarantees that you have, is that the US dollar will always going down. So I think that's one interesting thing. But then it's also, as we're seeing this, it's also being utilized now in like Venezuela, like people are really using it because their currency is failing. And it kind of brings everyone, almost on like the same, like even playing field.
Sure.
Whether or not you have a bank account or not, you have some access to the same, financial services. It's still not perfect, but I think,
of course,
where we're seeing it, slowly start to develop, where I won't, whereas like when I first got into Bitcoin, I would be very surprised if the US dollar failed and like Bitcoin was the next thing. But now I'm more optimistic that there will be, something that will have to change drastically. Whether it's a new, stable coin that the US, makes, or a digital currency, I think something, could eventually happen. And now I think I'm more, positive as the years go on about Bitcoin and other cryptos.
Absolutely. Definitely agree.
Have you, gotten into like DeFi or like, like decentralized finance or anything like that?
Well, the thing is, I know how crazy experimental it is right now. And it mostly goes back to time allocation. So I certainly keep an eye on all the different things, the different experiences that are being done. I haven't tried them, but it's more because I prefer spending my time on other things than trying these things currently, given the risk that it's involving as well. So for now, I'm staying away from it. I'm convinced that that mindset and the way things are being built will be a revolution.
Right.
But you know, it's a little bit like when I invest in like a growth company that is still private. I want to see something that is strong, already working really strong, and then I'm like, okay, it's worth my time or my
Right.
money to get involved. But when it's that experimental, I don't think it's worth my money or my time to actually put to work. But I'm definitely keeping an eye on it and listening to what's going on. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I haven't actually put any of my money into DeFi yet just because
Yeah.
I've seen how wild it can get. Crypto is really the Wild West out there. Like Sushi Swap, I don't know if you've heard of that. Like that popped
Of
up
course.
$160 million in a day or whatever it was. And then it went
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
because, the
Yeah.
founder took it or whatever. And that's just like, it's almost mind boggling that it's like, why did you put your money into it? Like, why? But,
Yeah.
teach their own.
But I love food.
Yeah,
But
I do love sushi. That kind of brought
not
me there.
defined food.
Yeah, no. I want my food physical. That's something I don't think the blockchain can fix. But yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting to see if if there was some sort of reputation system in the blockchain to kind of figure out, who should get loans or whatever. That would, I think, would be insane. But that's too smart for me, so I can't do that. But I'm glad to sit on the sidelines and kind of watch everyone.
Yes.
But
yes.
do you go to like any crypto events or anything?
No, not really. Even when I was really in the music industry, I've never really went to conferences and stuff like that. The reason is when I'm done working or researching things like that, I want to be in the kitchen. Yeah. Oh, and I want to be playing tennis or tennis table. It's enough for me. Of course, I think some conferences are probably incredibly interesting. And if you need to networking, there was some time of my life where I networked a lot, and networking absolutely completely changed my life. That's for sure. Right. But at this point, not really. However, I prefer to go to random events that are like not really related to what I do, and that's kind of what some very interesting people think and do. They like to expose themselves to randomness, right? Because it can trigger interesting things in your mind. Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari Computers, do that all the time. He goes to random stuff, and that's how he gets like an idea, like an unexpected idea. So I think that's very interesting, and it's very refreshing to do that too.
Yeah.
So I actually enjoyed
creativity as well.
Yes,
yeah,
that's that.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. I mean, when you said when you're home, like you really want to be home. You don't want to constantly be thinking about work.
Yes.
I think that can also kind of trigger you to make not sound decisions because you're kind of just always thinking about it, and so you're kind of pushing it, or if you're angel investing, I would imagine, is kind of like this. If you're looking at a bunch of projects and you haven't invested one in a while, you're probably if you were to just constantly think about it, maybe you would make a irrational decision just because you're kind of like, I need to be in it because I feel like everyone else is in it. So that definitely plays.
I call that digestion time.
Right.
When you spend a lot of time on something, and then I think it's super important to completely forget about it, and that's how unconsciously things get digested, and then you can go back to it and things are much clearer. So I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. What kind of things do you do to kind of relieve your stress from trading? Because that is just the most like mentally straining thing ever, to be looking at numbers all day, be counting on drops and stuff like that. I saw on your Instagram that you like to cook and stuff like that, which is cool.
I cook quite a bit. Well, the beautiful thing about trading specifically is that you learn a lot about yourself. It's like having a mirror, and you can see what your personal issues are. And it really teaches you to be okay with whatever situation. And I find that incredibly powerful. I've always been very detached from things, events. I have a friend that tells me that I'm very stoic. I remember working with like some great songwriters like people who did hits for like Katy Perry and like Britney Spears. And when I was working with this songwriter, she was always like, you never get excited. So I don't know. I don't know. I think that's the way I function. I don't really get excited or sad or like depressed. It's not my thing. I've learned to be okay with whatever the situation is, and I've really understood that when most people would freak out and lose their mind, that's exactly when you need to be at the top of your game, being quiet, being ready to take well-prepared action. And that's how you do the best thing. That's how you get the best results. That's the best times to build stuff. And once you really understand that, if you are good at risk management, stress, you don't get that much stress.
A lot of that,
it's
yeah,
not easy.
is built on experience.
It's not human. It's like learning to behave like a computer. But I got pretty good at that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like everyone always says, like, don't take business personally. You should never try to bring emotion into it, because that's when you're most susceptible to make a bad decision. That one that you're not really aligned with is when you bring emotion into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just had something in my brain. I just forgot it. Jeez.
Oh, it's okay. We were talking about activities outside of work. Right. Things that really that I do enjoy. Of course, I work out. I love table tennis, and I cook a lot, for example. Yeah.
So what does stimulate you then? Because like you said, if you're making a hit or whatever, you might not be as excited as you were the first time you did it. Because the first time you made a hit, you were probably insane about it.
Well,
there's no way you were calm when you had your first big hit. There's no way.
Well, the thing, when you create it, you don't know if it's gonna become like successful or whatever, but you know what it's doing to you. So through the creation process, well, first of all, I'm sure like creating is incredibly fulfilling. It's incredible. So you can get extremely happy just because you created something. But then when you bring it to the public, to the world, you have no idea how they're gonna react. And the success of a song or that kind of stuff, it's really random. It's highly related to marketing and things like that. So it's hard to say. But I can tell you that when I create something and it makes me feel good, like the creation and what it makes me feel, yes, it can be really, really cool, very, very happy. But I think when you are also very educated, you get less and less excited because you're like, oh yeah, I've already experienced that. I'm familiar with it. It's cool, but I want something that I'm not familiar with anymore. So or not yet. So I think what excites me, it's curiosity. So it's when I discover things that makes me really happy.
Yeah. No, I mean, that definitely makes sense, because I feel, like if I was making music, I feel like if I had a hit, I would always keep trying to get higher and higher. And there's a certain point which you just can't, and you have to be okay with the process of how you're doing it.
Sure.
If you're putting in your best work, you're doing it. But yeah, I think that's really interesting, because I think a lot of people, whether they're singers or whether they're producers, I think a lot of people can struggle with that.
Sure.
And in any industry, even, it doesn't even have to be music, but if you're always, it's okay to, do your best, but you don't necessarily have to keep, competing with yourself, because that's some of the hardest things to do, is just to constantly compete with yourself, especially when things blow up fast too, because that's just not normal, to blow up.
That's true. But I think it can get really unhealthy for some people, because I've never had a number one worldwide hit, but I had a few hits smaller on like a country level or something like that. But I think, if you get to like really, 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 really big stuff worldwide, and you get 10 hits and suddenly people stop calling you and things like that, I think for some people who are not strong and really think that the public success is what should dictate your mind, the health of your mind, I think can be really difficult for a lot of people. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, that is interesting. What kind of music are you, more into? I know you said you played piano, and I believe
Yep.
is it French music that you were into? I believe.
Well,
Or
I got trained in classical and jazz music as well as Latin. So I started to teach piano when I was 19. I was teaching classical and jazz. At 20, I spent some time in Cuba. I played with some of the most famous Cuban musicians. It was completely insane. Uh, but I like all kind of music as long as there is some soul, some truth in it. You just feel it, you just feel how real, how honest the creator of that thing is through music. That's
you're
all it
not
is.
into mumble rap?
Crap music, it's like junk food. It's like the junk food of music by definition. Yeah, yeah.
Do you see, like, how do you see LA kind of transforming in the music industry? Because I think a lot of hip hop and those kind of artists are now moving to LA. I feel like everyone is. I mean, I'm not in the industry, so I'm kind of looking
Right.
at it from like what I see on social media, I guess. But how do you see it transferring? Do you think it's going in a good direction, or do you like see it moving somewhere
So
else?
I would say that 10 years ago, it was more the case that people would move to LA for music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's really the case anymore. I think it's because of the state of music industry. Uh, Everybody knows in the music industry how incredibly corrupted and nonsense the way it functions, because it's really about pretty much who you know. It's really about their taste. It's all about the taste of the people who select the songs for an album. It's absolutely not about the quality of a song or the quality of the music. Definitely not. So it's very difficult for people to be motivated to be in that circle. I think it is still this way, big time. So that's why I think for people who are very logical, math oriented, code computer like oriented, it's not enjoyable because of all these reasons. It's very logical. That's just the way it is. So no, I see actually a lot of people are maybe going more to Nashville, where you have more of a soulful way of doing things. By definition, the country music is really like storytelling, and like there's actually some soul in it. Absolutely. While, yeah, I mean, the state of urban music is pretty much bad. I mean, people are like, yeah, but it's just your taste. I'm like, it's not. It's when you look at food, a 3 stars Michelin restaurant is a 3 star Michelin restaurant. Junk food is junk food. It's all about the ingredients and how you put them together. Music is the same, but for some reason, people don't get it. They're like, yeah, but it's just because you don't like this kind of music. I'm like, it's being objective. It is poorly put together with bad ingredients, just like in the food world. That's what it is. And if you cannot say to a 3 stars Michelin chef that he makes junk food, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's not possible. you know.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I see, like, from my perspective, yeah, I'm always like seeing, we're seeing like YouTubers now, just kind of jumping in it for, a song or whatever. Or,
Yeah.
if you're famous on TikTok, you can make a song because people want to
Yep.
listen to you. People, it could be the
Yep.
worst song, like
Yep.
the song Friday. People listen to that song because it was so bad that like people wanted to listen to it. But it was also because, like, she kind of made a name for herself. So everyone kind of wanted to,
Yep.
see what you're up to.
And that touches actually marketing and human psychology, because it's all about being corny enough to have something that will just catch people's attention, and that's
memes
all.
are in right now. They are definitely in.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That is interesting. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I know you're busy. I know we booked till 2. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Like any projects that you're into, outside of the ones that, we discussed?
Well, I think that's about it for me for the future. It's definitely keeping my music, my finance, and my coding. Keeping working on that, trying to keep building interesting things. I have a song coming out in a CBS TV series called Stand. It's actually a Stephen King adaptation
Okay.
with Kat McNamara. She's pretty famous actress. I saw that she has like 3.4 million subscriber on her Instagram. I was not familiar with her, but we did a song with her. So I have a song coming out. I think it's in December. The TV series is.
Okay.
I just mixed a whole album of African trap world music that is actually very interesting because the artist is from Africa, but also worked with top jazz players, worked with Erykah Badu. So big fan of Erykah Badu. Talk about soul. That's the truth to me. That's soul. That's the real stuff. So huge fan of that. Before that, completely different. I co-produced and mixed a Christian music album. Very different. So I constantly navigate between these different things. So that's very enjoyable. I don't need to take vacation. It's just fun. And if people want to get in touch or if they are serious about their music project or whatever, they can contact me and we can potentially talk about how we're going to work on it and things like that. So yeah, that's that.
Cool. You want to plug your Twitter so that way people can follow you.
Oh,
That's probably the
sure.
best way to follow you, right?
Yeah,
Twitter,
or like,
Instagram.
sure, Twitter or Instagram is fine. It's just my first name, last name.
I'll link it as well.
People can just Google, they will find my website right away as well. I always prefer, I know that I deal with more educated people when they actually go to my website and write to me through my website because I see that they made the effort to do a minimum of research.
Right.
Because I don't like when people are just like clueless and don't do any research and they're like asking tons of questions. I don't have the time to answer. I put all this information online for you to see. So go do your homework, do your research, and then talk to me if you like. That's it.
Yeah. Well, perfect. Yeah, I appreciate you so much. I've been looking up because like the camera's up here, but now that I'm looking down, I'm seeing all these records. Like this is the first
Oh
time that
yeah,
I'm seeing it. Holy cow,
yeah,
that looks
yeah,
amazing. Wow. Is this your studio or is this just like an
yeah,
office space?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's my studio. That's where I do everything. Absolutely everything.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
amazing. So
So
these are
you
so
have,
these are your records of the songs.
yeah. So these are 2 Grammy nominations for an album, a song I did with Heavy D for Anthony Hamilton.
Okay.
So that was one of my first very nice credits. Very happy about it because Anthony Hamilton is a big time soul singer. So love
Mhm.
it. This one, it was actually my first song placement outside of France. It's one of the biggest albums in Asia over the last 20 years. A boy band called TVXQ.
Mhm.
This is actually the Anthony Hamilton album that got gold in the US. I think Anthony got like something like 12 Grammy nomination total.
Wow.
It's just really quality stuff.
Yeah.
This is Leona Lewis right here. One of my first gig. I had a small role on it. This is actually a plaque for the world for Leona Lewis because it was one of the biggest album in the world in 2008. This girl right here is Radix Gigi. She is Quincy Jones' protege, and I co-produced, co-wrote her first single, became the biggest song ever in her home country. So very happy about that. This is Big Time Rush. They have a TV show on Nickelodeon, and the album was #1 on iTunes, and I co-produced that with Fraser T. Smith. He did a lot of the Craig David stuff and Adele stuff.
Mhm.
That's some K-pop stuff as well, a band called Super Junior, and that's Gigi again. And it's missing some stuff, but that's about some of the stuff that happened the last 10 years.
Yeah. Wow. That's really awesome. I like the whole setup here. I like the speakers
Yeah.
too. What kind of speakers are those? Those are.
So I have a very, very simple setup. I'm try to not be too shaky, but I have a very simple setup. So basically I have like a big keyboard because I'm a pianist. So I need a serious keyboard. I just have regular speakers, Yamaha speakers, which I don't use for mixing and mastering, of course. I mean, if you are into music, my room is not treated. I use what we call calibrated headphones to do all my mixing. I had no interest in taking care of my room for the sound. It's just like too much work, too complicated.
Right.
I'm not into that stuff. And I have just 2 screens, which has always been very convenient for the coding and the trading stuff. And yeah, that's where I do all the coding, all the trading, research, investing, and music.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of work, but yeah, I mean, that's really awesome that you.
But that's the great thing for me. For me, it's never been work, you know. So that's
yeah, I mean, if you can enjoy it, then that's something that you can do forever, because you can't do something that you hate forever.
Yep, very true.
But yeah, so hey, I appreciate it so much that you came on here.
Cool.
It was great talking to you. I learned a lot about, you know, music.
Oh, cool. Well, happy.
So that is definitely one for the books. So I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, thank you for the invite, and I mean, keep me posted.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Cool.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like this video, share it with your friends, and I will see you next time.